Good afternoon, everyone. Frank Sulkowski with WJCL 22 News. Right now, Savannah Mayor Van Johnson holding a news conference. Again, he is going to be addressing Governor Brian Kemp's updated executive order released late yesterday. Right now, we want to get you to that press conference in downtown Savannah.
We're joined today by Alderman Nick Palumbo of the 4th District, Alderwoman Estella Shabazz of the 5th District, Alderman Dietrich Leckett of the 2nd District, and Alderwoman Linda Wilder Bryant of the 3rd District. As you probably know, late last night, Governor Brian Kemp issued an order attempting to invalidate Savannah's mask requirement by stripping local authority to enact policy from municipal governments across the state, including Atlanta, Augusta, Savannah, Rome, Hinesville, and the governor's hometown of Athens, Clarke County. I was so angry last night that I expressed exactly what I felt. And admittedly, I know that I may not have said it in the kindest, gentlest, sweetest way, or in a way that my mother would approve of, but it clearly and unequivocally reflected my frustration in getting our city ahead of coronavirus. I am not going to mince words. We believe that Governor Kemp is overstepping his authority. With that said, our emergency declaration still stands. We have continually done everything we could to be good partners with our governor. All we are trying to do is trying to protect Savannahans and over 15 million people who visit our city each year. Just yesterday, the CDC said widespread mandatory mask orders could bring the virus under control within 4 to 6 weeks. The CDC in Atlanta, Georgia. Just yesterday, Walmart, the United States' largest retailer, announced that shoppers will be required to wear a mask in all of its stores, regardless of state laws. Just yesterday. And since then, Sam's Club, Costco, Apple stores, Dollar Tree, Best Buy, Starbucks, Kroger's, CVS, and Target are all requiring masks in their stores as well. The science is clear. Florida, our neighbor to the south, is suddenly the nation's hotspot, which is only about 120 miles due south of City Hall. And just yesterday, the governor of Alabama mandated masks across the state. Masks are not a political statement. Masks are a public health tool, a necessary public health tool. The state of Georgia continues to send mixed messages to everyone that lives here. At the beginning of the month, the governor flew across the state with the United States Surgeon General to strongly encourage Georgians to wear a mask. On July the 2nd, in Brunswick, when asked about Savannah's mask order, Governor Kemp said, "The mayor and I quote, agree on the policy. You should be wearing a mask, and that is what I encourage people to do," end quote. On July the 6th, the governor announced the Georgia Safety Promise, which in his own words is a pledge, and I quote, between business owners and the public to join together to maintain a safe environment following Georgia's Department of Public Health and CDC guidelines, end quote, including wearing face coverings. Strangely enough, the Georgia Safety Promise is in line and almost identical to the Savannah Safe Pledge, which we launched in our city back in May. How can we take care of our local needs when our state ties our hands behind our back and then says ignore the advice of experts, and sometimes to ignore their own advice. It makes no sense, and it is not based on scientific data. These are the facts. And this information comes from and directly from the Coastal Health District, and it is and has been available on its website for anyone who wishes to view it. The number of positive cases in Chatham County continues to increase. Today, we have had almost 3,000 total cases. Last Thursday, we had 2,116 cases. We have added 879 cases in just 1 week. Think about it. In May, we had 266 confirmed cases. In June, we had 809 cases. 10.5% of the people tested for COVID in the Coastal Health District are positive. This time last month, it was just under 7%. As of yesterday, 148 people are in Chatham County hospitals with a diagnosis of COVID-19. On June 16th, 1 month ago, just 30 people were hospitalized with the virus. You see where I'm going with this? In the first 13 days of July, we have more COVID-19 cases in the first 13 days of July than we had in March, April, May, and June combined. In the end, let's be clear. I do not care about politics, perceptions, opinions, beliefs, or emotion. I am solely, this council is solely concerned and obsessed at this point with keeping Savannah and Savannahans safe. The science has shown us exactly how to do this. Any deviation from this, in our minds, is reckless and irresponsible. And it puts Georgians in general and Savannahans in particular at risk. Therefore, in Savannah, Georgia's first city, the mother city of Georgia, we will continue to follow the science. We will continue to take care of Savannah. We will continue to provide masks for free to whoever wants them and needs them. We will continue to wear them. We will continue to mandate them, and we will continue to require them in our city. May God bless you, and I know God will continue to bless the city of Savannah. That's the end of my prepared remarks. I will entertain any questions you may have.
Mr. Mayor, I have two.
Yes, ma'am.
One is, how would you...
Well, pass the mic for, well, yeah, however y'all do that.
How would you say that the governor is overstepping? Explain that.
Well, we believe that although there's some very clear lines, and I think cities across the state feel the same way, in this case, we are under a public health emergency. We believe that it's very clear that when emergent conditions exist, that we have the right, we have the authority, we have the responsibility to declare an emergency, as well as a means to be able to address that. And so that's kind of where we are with that. And so those are some of the grounds that we're standing on, and let the chips fall where they may. But we will never be accused of not doing everything we can to fight for our city. If the governor or anyone else wants to take that, to have someone else hear it, I mean, so be it. But Savannah will do what we can to take care of our citizens.
I've talked to a few business people today. Some of them have indicated they were, requiring masks is one thing, but when they saw saw headlines about shutting businesses down, that's when they got this, just a little bit too much. What do you say to a business owner? Maybe there's some clarity on this, I'm not sure, but if I'm a business owner and all my employees are masked up, and we're following all the guidelines, but we have customers continuing to come in without masks, I can't, as a business owner, make them put on a mask.
No, but you can't refuse service.
You can't refuse service.
And I think that Walmart, Sam's, and all these other businesses are showing us the way. If you try to come into City Hall without a mask, you will not be coming into City Hall.
I think that's some of the pushback you're going to get from the business community, from what I'm hearing, however, is that requiring them to enforce an ordinance, they don't believe is fair.
Well, I think that the reality is for us is that I get phone calls and gotten phone calls and messages from people who are working in businesses that are scared to death of people walking into these establishments without masks. And what does it mean to them? We have to be to a point where sometimes that we are about people. And that's what this is all about. If we take that approach, well, I can't do anything about it, and nothing is done, and our numbers continue to grow, we will be looking at a situation, because again, we're worse now, clearly by the numbers, than we were when the stay-at-home order was enacted. We might be in a position like California where businesses are now having to be shut down. What will people say then? So I think the requiring of masks is a minor inconvenience to exchange for the long-term viability of not only your business, but the community as a whole.
Mr. Mayor, you said if the governor takes this somewhere else, that's his right to do so. Is the city and the city attorney prepared for the court over this?
The city of Savannah is prepared to defend our position and to take care of our citizens. We believe we can demonstrate, based on the science, not only the emergent need for us to do this, but also the path by which we have the authority to do it. And so if anyone wants to fight us about us trying to take care of our citizens, I think that this is a fight that we're willing to take. But again, this is not just the city of Savannah against the governor. There are cities across the state that are saying the same thing. If you don't want to protect us, then allow us the opportunity to protect ourselves. And again, I don't think that what cities have done across the state have been outlandish or out of the norm. We're following the CDC guidelines, which is very clear. I mean, every medical professional, to include the CDC yesterday, made it clear. The CDC is the nation's arm in disease protection and public safety as it relates to health. They're saying that wearing masks work. For us, we're in a very delicate situation. First of all, we're a beautiful place to visit, a beautiful place to live. We're a beautiful place for people to come hang out. And people have come in and they're hanging out. As Alderman Leggett could tell you, as someone who works in the healthcare, I'm very concerned about them. They have not caught a break, and now our capacity is going up. So what do we say then for our healthcare heroes and our healthcare facilities? What do we say, because we're a regional system, we're taking care of people from a region. And so as they expand, we're taking care of them. What happens to our citizens when they need that help here? We're only a slither away from reaching a tipping point at which our systems go from being okay to being overwhelmed. And so what does that mean then for our community?
Do you draw any sort of connection between what the governor said yesterday and the visit from President Trump?
Anything I would say would be speculation. I hope that his decision was not based on politics. The governor of Alabama, the governor of Texas, both now are requiring masks statewide, following the science. The governor of Florida, the governor of South Carolina, again allowing their municipalities to deem as they see fit. The governor of Georgia has said that cities, and it specifically said, cities and counties cannot do that. And again, to me, that's overreach.
One more, we'll pass it on. A few weeks ago, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms said that the president needed to just stop talking because he wasn't helping and wasn't being productive. Are you at that place when it comes to government?
I'm trying very hard not to get involved in national politics. I will tell you that overall, I believe, all the way up and down the line, that we've done our citizens a disservice. The reason why we're in this situation is because from the very beginning, we have not spoken with a unified voice. The guidance from the federal government contradicted itself. It changed drastically from one way to another. The president disagreeing with his health advisors, the states doing their own thing, and cities are left to be able to try to make the best they can out of a mess. And so I think that it would help if the president wore a mask, because that's what the science says. And we certainly want to model the behavior of our president. If we're saying that, I think very clearly, the president being the most influential individual in our country, arguably in the world, if he put on a mask and said it was important to wear a mask, I think people would just do it because he said so. It's also noteworthy that in the First Lady's public views over the last couple of days, she was wearing a mask. Again, this is nothing hard. This is about freedom, freedom to live, freedom to be healthy, freedom to go to stores, shop, go to your favorite places of recreation. Nobody wins when cities are locked down, nobody. And I'm trying to do the best I can, and I know this council is trying to do the best they can to promote public health and public safety and not get us to a point where our city has to close down again. That doesn't work for anybody.
Mr. Mayor, unfortunately, we've seen issues across the country where people have refused service due to people not wearing masks. Is there any plans for extra enforcement just to make sure that businesses and workers are protected when they tell people that you can't walk in here without wearing a mask?
I think, again, businesses have the right to refuse. Again, what comes to mind is no shirt, no shoes, no service. And people have been doing that for years because businesses have the right to serve who they want to serve. And so I guess I reject the fact that someone says I'm powerless to determine who comes into my establishment. And again, these corporate giants are showing us the way. They're showing us that this is important. And I think I've seen in a variety of places. I've gone into M-Marks across the city. And when they walk in, I mean, they say you need a mask. Okay, and people and most people get it. Oh, okay, let me go get one. And they go get one. We're giving away masks. We don't want this to be hard. We don't want this to be difficult. We want to make sure we do all we can to help businesses in this case. We need our businesses to be okay. We need them to continue to be profitable. And so this is a way to help us from doing that, because we know in the end, if we get to a point where businesses close down, that's not good for anyone. So I would much rather a very proactive stance from our business community for them to continue to insist that before we get to a point where, in the end, we wish we would have.
And have you had any conversations with other local leaders and other local municipalities about your decision, and do they share the same sentiments as you do with this?
All night long. We've been speaking with mayors from across the state. And again, I think initially to share our united frustration, our united amazement, our united bewilderment. I likened it to an episode of The Twilight Zone where I was living in an alternate reality. And I think that you will hear from mayors across the state of Georgia, again, expressing extreme concern about what this action, this overreach, it means to the ability of mayors and city councils in over 530 some odd cities in this state to be able to protect their citizens. So I think that everybody I talked to felt the same way. Yes, sir.
A couple questions. Just first, going back to the confusion that this back and forth creates. You mentioned that happening to businesses, locals, visitors alike. Is there a concern that this back and forth will cause some whiplash and confusion, further confusion?
Well, again, that's why we want to be consistent. So the difference between yesterday and today is nothing. In Savannah, nothing has changed. So I think we can't be any clearer than that.
And to the point of enforcement, to your knowledge, to date, have any fines been issued to individuals or businesses?
I do not know, but I believe we have initiated enforcement actions.
Initiated enforcement actions, warnings at this point, either?
The whole gamut.
Okay. And at this point, police are still directed to treat this as a violation of an emergency order and issue the penalty.
Nothing has changed.
And last thing for me, you mentioned your conversation with leaders of other cities that had similar emergency orders in place. Can you band together or join resources? I mean, are we talking a class action like motion here to challenge what the governor's trying to do?
I leave that to those that are skilled in the practice of law. I know that the mayors of these cities are pretty united on where we are in this. We have a fabulous municipal association in the Georgia Municipal Association that serves as a lifelink and a connector to cities across the state. And so I think that we'll get together and we'll continue to say things. I think, again, you will see in your counterparts across the state, mayors saying the exact same thing I'm saying. In the end, if Georgia's going to see COVID-19 in its rearview mirror, we're going to have to mandate masks. And I think what we're doing, what we have done, what Savannah has done is not unreasonable. I think, again, people find it to be a minor inconvenience in exchange for the long-term viability of our city. And at this point, that's all I'm concerned about.
Thanks.
Thank you, Deanne.
Yes, I,
Why don't you pass it down for her?
quickly, the police have the information, police department would have the information on the citations.
They would.
Also, I'm assuming that the council members standing aside to the aldermen are in support fully of show of hands.
Had the opportunity to discuss briefly with them, and I'm fortunate and blessed that our entire council remains committed to the science and to the reasons that I ordered it initially, and that the declaration was made, and that they approved on last Thursday. Nothing has changed.
And one thing I didn't forget to mention that one business person said to me was, I think that some of the businesses are concerned about confronting their customers and having some kind of difficulty with the mask thing, and especially some of the hotels. It's kind of a different beast in the business world a little bit. You've got people coming from a distance and they don't come to the mask, or they come with a different attitude.
I remember, Deanne, in April when hotels were closed. And I'll leave it at that. I remember in April when stores were closed. I remember that. I remembered business owners coming to us and saying, let's see what we can do. We'll be willing to do anything to be able to open. We'll modify as we need to. If someone comes into a store and is shoplifting, they have ways of refusing service. Again, I don't think that the word confronting is, I think we can kindly, and I've seen people do it across the city, kindly remind people, please wear a mask. We reserve the right to refuse people who don't want to abide by those rules. Do we have to serve somebody who refuses to pay?
And the people that are the citations mainly being looked at businesses, or you're not walking around the streets giving tickets to tourists, or are you going to? For not wearing masks?
Everybody. Everybody.
So anyone has the potential to be cited.
Right. Well, the concern really is with visitors. We have people coming from all over the country. We don't know what situation they're coming from. And the ones I've talked to, many of them have coming escaping from places in which they were more restrictive. So they come here and they want to live their best life in our city. And I mean, that's what our concern is. For people who work in hotels and work in businesses, I mean, we don't know what they are bringing to the table. So for us, again, we did not want to make it punitive, which is why we've bought thousands of masks for the purposes of offering before, and so, again, the vast majority, well over 1,000 people have taken the mask and they've gone on with their day. So again, if tourists don't have them, we're still providing them.
And a totally different subject, do we have a city manager yet?
Huh?
Do we have a new city manager yet?
Pat Monahan's sitting right over there.
A new one? It's okay. Yeah.
No.
Y'all had some meeting about that today.
Yeah, we have aggressively embarked upon the process of a city manager. We've begun that process, which many of you know is highly confidential, highly privileged, and so we won't say much about it. But we've begun that process, and this process can end today if Mr. Monahan decides he wants to stay. So we have our hand on the stop button, and at the moment he says, you know what, he's had an epiphany in the middle of the night, we'll stop the process.
Yeah, Pat. All right, Pat.
Mayor Council, do you have any response to this petition going around to recall you? Have you seen that?
I heard about it.
Yeah. Any response to it?
No. I mean, what am I supposed to say? I mean, I work at the pleasure of the people of the city of Savannah. And so if someone wants to recall me for doing all that I can to be able to protect our city, protect our children, protect our older folks, protect our businesses, if I'm going to be recalled for that, I am guilty as charged.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Anything else? So we're doing the best we can in Georgia's first city, Georgia's mother city, the hostess city of the South. We are going through this day by day. We are doing the very best that we can. No one told us on January 2nd, when we raised our hand and swore before God and the citizens of Savannah that we would be dealing in a worldwide pandemic. Therefore, we're doing the best we can with the information that we have. We've been blessed by having a phenomenal workforce in Team Savannah who have continued to carry on their work expertly, excellently, and with efficiency. We've been blessed by outstanding healthcare partners, particularly the Coastal Health District, who has helped us to shepherd our public health response. We've been blessed by wonderful businesses who have stepped up and said, what can we do to help make this better? And they realize that we're all inextricably linked. The city can't do well and businesses do bad. And businesses can't do well and the city does bad. I mean, in the end, we're all linked. And these businesses continue to call and to interact with us and say, how can we help? And most of our businesses get it. They know we would want nothing further to be, I mean, this is restricting for us. I mean, these are my colleagues and I've seen them mostly through Zoom. It's hard for us. It's hard for everybody. But we're making the best we can. We have got to get to the point where we are able to catch up and overtake COVID-19. Today, we are lagging behind. And actions like the governor's puts us either further behind. It's like we're running in a race with tape wrapped around our legs. It has significantly slowed us down and will slow us down. But we refuse to let anybody or anything put us in a position where we cannot protect our city. I believe that's what the governor wants, although he might have expressed it the wrong way. I believe that's what he wants. And I'm going to trust that's what he wants. And I trust that he will continue to reach out and be a partner to us so we can all say that one day we got through this together and not be playing this out in the media and in the national press. But until then, we're Savannah strong because we show Savannah love. God bless you all. May God bless you.
Again, you've been listening to Savannah Mayor Van Johnson addressing Georgia Governor Brian Kemp's mandate last night, saying that local cities and counties cannot mandate the wearing of face coverings and masks. Again, Van Johnson very adamant about Savannah going to continue wearing those masks. And again, we'll have much more from Van Johnson in today's press conference coming up on WJCL 22 News at 5 o'clock. Right now, we want to send you back to your normal programming.